Welcome. We're here today to talk about the best practices for a B2B website. The things that you should really think about before designing your website, if you're going through a website design, or if you already have an existing website, what you should really focus on for optimization. I'm Ryan Flanagan. I'm the CEO of Nuance Media, and we have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to really hop into this. The first thing that we want to think about is what's the definition of good? Right? Well, a good B2B website mirrors the consultative sales model. Your website should not be too pushy, should not be based on assumptive closes. You want to really formulate your B2B website about building credibility, problem solving for your clients. What are their pains? How do you solve those problems? Really about relationship building. B2B sales is very much about relationships, building credibility, problem solving, and these type of things at its core. And the reason that we do that is because we know with B2B that there's a longer sales cycle. That could be 6 months, that can be 2 years, depending on the size of the sale. So your website should really be something that empowers your brand and your company to reduce uncertainty, build credibility, and quite frankly, shorten that sales cycle to get people more into the door. Now, when we look at the importance of websites, so how important is your B2B website? Well, in a case study done by Salesforce of 300 B2B companies, the number one sales channel from lead to close was customer employee referrals, and that closed at 3.63%. Now that makes a lot of sense. We know a ton of companies out there that's primary source of new business is existing business and referrals. But the number two source for lead to close was your website and how efficient your website worked. So when we look at that, that was the number two lead to close rate, and that closed at 1.57% of the time. So that's how important your website is it's the number two channel for gaining you new business other than your existing customers and referrals by your employees. The next thing that we look at here is that even if somebody knows you, they have an existing relationship with you, 94% of people are going to research you online before finalizing a contract. That can cover, reviews of your services, what your website looks like, existing case studies, other solutions that you've provided. All those things are really important and come into play when somebody is looking at doing business with you or not. The third thing is a very important thing that a lot of people don't realize is that there's a competitive advantage of building your website and getting some of these workflows, credibility cues, case studies, organic positioning in Google. That's a long-term strategic advantage. Quite frankly, we see because of this being the number two lead to close funnel for your company, that if somebody beats you to that and somebody does a better job, they're going to have a long-term strategic advantage. And that bridge is going to be harder and harder to gap, maybe not this year, but 3 years from now and 5 years from now. So when we look at this, there's a strong competitive advantage to getting your B2B website up, focusing on thought leadership, and getting that all working now in order to grow your company in the future. What have we seen from this? So at Nuance Media, we've been doing this for almost 10 years now, and we've seen a 71% year over year increase in sales by focusing on your website and doing it well, building credibility, showing case studies, doing reviews, showing awards, and really focusing on lead generation. So if this is done well, we've actually executed this and seen a 71% increase to year over year sales. Okay, so now that we've kind of covered the consultative sales process, and that's kind of the definition of a good B2B website, some of the important levels here, let's get into the fundamentals of your B2B website and what are the best practices. All right, so your website should have a professional tone and appearance. When people are coming there, they're looking for credibility to see if they want to do business or if they want to do business with your competitors. So when we look at this, we want to build credibility. This can be case studies, this can be testimonials. Your about and bio section is very important too. People like to do business with people. And if you don't have a good bio section, then there's not going to be as much interaction. The more uncertainty that we can reduce for our end customer, the more likely they are to approach us, want to do business with us, and really shorten that sales cycle. In fact, when we look at this, 48% of people say that that the website of their potential vendor is the #1 source of credibility for them. And of these people, actually this is a separate thing, is that 88% of people say that if they go to your website and they find it lacking, that they just won't return. 88% of people, and of that, 48% of those people think that's the #1 credibility cue. That's really, really important. Okay, so what's the next thing we should focus on? Well, simple navigation and user interface. We see these B2B websites that really Frankenstein out and kind of after 2 to 3 years have different pages going, all these other things, because they've added all these different pages as the need arises. We really want to focus on the Pareto principle and the 20% that will focus on the 80% of user interactions. You can find that out by looking at your analytics, seeing what pages people are looking at, and we kind of get into some more of the data stuff down here, but focus on the 20% that covers 80% of your user cases, because that's going to be really what people care about and what they're initially navigating to your website for. Have clear calls to action. Like, just tell them how to get it, how to easily go to the contact page, join the webinar, download a white paper. Any of these type of things make it very simple for people to interact and know where to navigate to. The thing that we find with this and why this isn't so important is 76% of people say this is the most important element of a website for them, is it's easy to find what they want. And if you're focusing on the 80%, the Frankenstein of websites, those people aren't going to be able to find what they want as easily as they can. So how do we focus on the 20% that covers 80% of the use cases of your website and do that really, really, really well? All right, what's the next thing we should think about? Content attracts the right visitors. So B2B, typically very technical in engineering, in a variety of different things. There's going to be technical aspects with that. Not a bad thing. Technical jargon is actually a good thing in this because it's going to attract the right visitors. But what you want to do is, on at least the top level on your service pages, is not get too into the weeds with this. It's better to put those technical jargon in blogs, webinars, downloadable content, those type of things, which can really become more of a lead generation opportunity for you, but really still provide a lot of value to your potential clients, your prospects, and quite frankly, your existing clients, so they continue to come back for new business. So when we look at this, we want to also really establish a process for creating content. With this, sometimes we'll find out that the CEO or the COO or the CTO or somebody in the executive suite is the one that has all the knowledge and really is the one that needs to do the data dump. So when you look at that, establish a process that can be somebody coming in to interview them, that can be somebody doing a whiteboard like we're doing right now. In order to get that data, create useful content out of that, a webinar, blogs, white papers, anything like that, in order to continuously evolve that long-term strategic advantage, because we know your competition is going to do it. So we want to be the first movers in that, really to focus on the problem-solving aspect of the consultative sales model. So how do we do that? How do we replicate that? How do we build that as a long-term strategic advantage? And that really comes down to creating a process for content creation. All right, so then what you want to focus on is leveraging the valuable resources to capture leads. Yes, we want to gate our content. I know, and we've heard this from a lot of clients, that they don't like to gate the content. Gating content is basically requesting a first name, last name, and email from somebody in order for them to get your white paper, a guide of some sort, educational materials, join a webinar. I understand your hesitation with that. But if they're not willing to give you their first name, last name, email, and maybe even company name, then they're probably not a qualified opportunity anyway. So in order to do this, we highly recommend that you gate the content because you are providing value and you want to track those leads, that funnel, to find out what's actually doing the best for your company, to focus on that long-term strategic advantage that we talked about. All right, so when you start creating this content, you're gating it, then amplify it. We're seeing major success right now, 20% increase in lead generation from LinkedIn, niche social media sites, Google Display, these other areas. So if you're creating this and you've created this process, then amplify it, use some ad spend on that, have them convert on the platform, don't make them come back to your site, and really focus on that. The final thing that we see with this is if you have niche content, you have a niche audience coming in to you because they're interested in ABC service or product that you are the expert in, you can actually leverage those people visiting your site to do predictive marketing, which is essentially like prospecting. So I can identify from people who visited your site, people who've downloaded your content, and a variety of different things, people who are very similar to them, and target them out online in other places like LinkedIn, Google Display, and a variety of other areas. So this is kind of a secular thing. You're producing the content, you're building a lead generation machine, you're building credibility, which is going to shorten your sales cycle. All very compelling, all very holistic to build a strategic long-term competitive advantage for your company. The final thing that you want to focus on here is because we're living in the digital era, we can find out how people are using our website and what they find of value. So when we look at this is visitor surveys. You can ask people what they're looking for when they're on their site and really build out content based on their pains of what they're looking for. We can do split testing. All this is very data driven in order to make your website the best website, solving the most pains for your potential customers. So we want to be very data driven and lean with this. And by this, we say you want to form a hypothesis of a split test or a value add content piece that will be most successful and really focus on solving your pains of your customers. And then you basically build it, you learn from it, and then you transfer that knowledge so the next time you do an iterative process to get more leads, to build a better relationship with your clients, and ultimately grow and focus on profitability for your organization, that you get in this circular process that you're improving, you're getting better over and over and over again, focusing on that long-term competitive advantage, not just for this year, but for 5 years and 10 years down the road for your company. Okay, that's all I have for you. If you've enjoyed this, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. You can find me at Ryan Flanagan, or you can follow us at Nuance Media on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Okay, I had a great time talking to you. I hope you have a great day. Cheers.